I think as a leader, you just talked about this manager that's like kind of top down, dictator style. The truth is, at the end of the day, in all these small businesses, if you have a bad team, it's one person's fault, yours.
Well, and here's the interesting thing, Brad. I think fault's a fascinating word as well, since we've spent so much time talking about words. You know, when I think of a fault, I often think of like a fault in tectonic plates or a crack in a vase. As a general rule, when you look at that, it's not a straight line. It's a jagged line that has a number of reasons. And in fact, if we think about breaking or cracking a vase, it splinters off into shards, and it's a jagged kind of twisty, almost, veiny, spiderwebby kind of explosion of different little things that run off in different ways. I think there's a great opportunity, and I think the best leaders in the world do this. They open the conversation from a place of curiosity as opposed to a place of criticism. How do we find ourselves in this position? Let's get clear on what happened. Let's get clear on why it happened. Then we can have a conversation about how to avoid it in the future. And let's be clear, it's not going to be to how to eliminate it in the future, because there's nothing we can do to eliminate cracks in our business forever. The cracks will come back. They'll come back with scale. The difference of running a 10-person organization and a 50-person organization. The things that worked with 10 are going to necessarily break at 50. Not because you were bad at 10, but because 10 is a different number than 50. It's a different scale. And so I think often business leaders, business owners, advisors get into this place of, well, I've done it this way. I know this way works. And then they get frustrated when it starts breaking later, and they say, oh, well, that must be because it's someone else's fault. Someone else is doing it wrong. Instead of first being curious and saying, well, wait a second. Let's talk about what actually happened. Are we even all in agreement as what actually happened? As you know, Brad, I'm a recovering criminal defense lawyer. And one of the things I learned about 5 minutes into law school is if you have an accident occur on the street and there are 10 people that watch this car accident at an intersection, you've got the driver of car number 1, you've got the driver of car number 2, and let's say you have 8 people standing around. So you've got 10 different humans who have observed this. What we know is that we will get 38 different versions of what actually happened, even though there's only 10 people. Like, we have our own variations in the stories of things that happened. We retell the story to highlight different details, to make it better one way or the other, to cast blame and dispersion in different ways. Let's first get clear on what was going on. And then before we go to the, hey, it's time to, crack the whip or punish some people for how this happened. Well, why did it happen? Was there a breakdown in training? Was there a breakdown in language? Was there a breakdown in understanding of how consequential this would be? One of the things I think is important to do with your team is to talk about what really matters. Every organization should get really clear on what an actual problem is. Okay, when I was running my ad agency, I would make it very clear with my clients early on, is there is no such thing as a marketing emergency. It doesn't actually exist. If the red on your business card doesn't match the red in the advertisement, that's a problem. That's something we need to focus on, but that is not an emergency. And I learned this from my time as a criminal defense lawyer. An emergency is, hey, the police are at the door, they've got an arrest warrant, and I'm about to be dragged out of my house. That's an emergency. That's something that we hopefully can jump in and get to work on instantly, because the consequences are enormous and it's happening in real time. The red's not matching, problem. I'm not trying to denigrate anybody's brand style guide or their PMS favorite color matching tool, but it's a different level of problem. So do your team members actually understand what the emergencies are? My team knows that for me, the biggest emergency that can happen in my business as a professional speaker is Joey not being on stage when it's time for the speech to start. Because we can't, it is almost impossible to recover from that. We can do things and we can work with the person who's organizing the event to kind of adjust the schedule maybe, but that is our top priority. So the top priority is making sure Joey is on stage when he's supposed to be. So how do all the steps before that contribute to making sure that happens? Then, of course, it's my job to make sure that when I'm on stage, I'm 100% present, 100% ready, 100%, prepared, and just ready to give everything I have to create the best experience possible. But the team contributes to that stage appearance, but also needs to understand the steps in the process leading up to it that could cause challenges or problems with that appearance. And this exists in every business. I'd be willing to bet if I asked, if we went to anyone who's listening's business, and I got all their team members in the room, and I said, I'm going to give you all a note card, and I want you to write down the 3 worst things that could happen in this business. You would have very little similarity between the answers because your people don't know. You've never explained to them. You've never asked them, what do you think the worst thing that could happen in this business is? You've never gotten clear on your prioritizations, like the Michael Hyatt example you were giving. What is the priority? What are the things that we make sure happen no matter what? Because all too often we throw at our employees, our team members, here are 78 things that matter. And we expect that they're going to understand the prioritization that we've adopted without ever telling them what the prioritization actually is.